Thank you, Carlo. Hi, everybody. So this is a new condition we're facing, and we've been making sort of cautious progress. Governments, the public, the commercial sector is beginning to understand what are the possibilities and what are the risks in using personal electronic data. As we work towards developing frameworks that will allow us to make responsible use of this data, it's important to explore in detail the possible gains in this. Specifically, the public, it seems, doesn't yet really have a strong grasp on what we can actually do with this data that will benefit all of us. We've become used to free content on the internet in return to some data. We can live with giving up some privacy for national security and safety. But this is just scratching the surface. Computational social sciences, for example, is an emerging field. Social sciences, which in many ways have been based on anecdotal evidence or on small samples of data from questionnaires, can benefit from this large amount of data that describes human behavior and activity. Actually, Sandy, who's here, was one of the key authors in a paper recently published in Science exactly on this topic. And I mean, I'll just give an example. In economics, if you look at social networking data, basically, who calls whom, anonymously, and you couple this with information about consumption, for example, you can gain understanding about the propagation of expectation values. You can maybe even predict bubbles. This is something that can transform social sciences in anthropology and sociology. The data there scales very nice from the micro scale to the macro scale, which is very hard to do with questionnaire data. Now, there's also great opportunity in business and commercial ventures. Google has shown us some of what can be done with this data. But as mobile phones become smarter or, let's say, more powerful, and we get more data about what's going on in the city and around us, this data can intersect data about us with data about our friends and colleagues, data about the community, and suddenly the phones can become tools for behavioral support. And there, you know, simple examples are the calendar that's smart enough to know you're not going to make your next meeting and does the scheduling for you to make sure that, you know, basically it could redeem us from the technicalities of coordination and leave us for more essential interaction. And there are also opportunities for applications that could benefit the public good. I'll just give an example that, you know, something we're doing in the lab. If you look at anonymized calling on cell phones, you can analyze trajectory of people and create a model for emissions. So what would happen if we each knew that by chipping in a little bit of anonymized data, we can actually help clean the air around us? And these are the kind of, you know, really in a nutshell, this is a big opportunity we're facing here. And clearly there are different risks to privacy associated with each of those types of uses. And currently we're also facing regulation that hasn't kept pace with the evolving technology. And also there are the regulatory frameworks sort of treat different commercial entities in a different way. And that in some ways prevents large usage or responsible usage of this data. So over the next 2 days, we aim to explore a little bit of the opportunities, the challenges, and hopefully think about some ways to move forward. I'll touch briefly on the program. I just want to mention first that this is an event we're hoping to have as part of a series. So engaging data hopefully will continue in a series of discussions after this one. Let me go briefly over what we're going to do in the next 2 days. So after me, there will be a keynote by Peter Hirschberg, and we'll hear then a session of 4 plenary talks, more talking about the vision. What can we do? What's cool that we can do with data that could benefit the public, sciences, commercial enterprises? And then after lunch, we'll spread out into a series of parallel sessions where research and position papers will be presented. The panels are So employing digital network data for social value, that will be the first session. In parallel, there will be a session called A Balancing Act, Privacy, Security, and the Use of Personal Electronic Data. Then after a coffee break, there will be another 2 sessions in parallel, Mining the Network, the value and challenges of large data sets, cloud, crowd, and commerce, business and incentive models for extracting value from personal data. So that would conclude the day. Then whoever registered for a reception, join us at 5:30 at the R&D pub. Then tomorrow, after 2 morning keynotes, we'll basically spend the rest of the day in conversation. There will be 3 panels. The first one will talk about the technical methods for ensuring data protection. Then we'll look at the legal and regulatory frameworks for making responsible use of personal electronic data. And then we'll summarize the day in a discussion, sort of looking back at what's been discussed over these 2 days, hopefully pointing some ways to move forward. Now I want to introduce Peter Hirschberg, who will be our keynote for the day. Peter is at the epicenter of a noisy, connected world of online conversation. He's from Silicon Valley. He's been there for over 20 years. Was the chairman of Technorati, and he's also the co-founder and chairman of the Conversation Group. Peter also spent 9 years at Apple Computers, where he headed the enterprise marketing, and he grew this to over $1 billion annually and helped lead the company into online services. Now, I met Peter, I think, about, a month and a half ago or so, and we talked about this conference and all sorts of related topics, and we really hit it off. And it seems like Peter, in some way, based on his experience in the past, was always engaged in looking at something innovative that's created by people, by scientists, by the industry, and then showing organizations and the public how to actually accept it and make it the benefit of everyone. He's done it at Apple, at Technorati, which was at points, I think, the biggest blogosphere, right? And we're facing kind of the same situation again. So I think this is a very good beginning of a discussion. Thank you for joining us, Peter. Please.